My name's Jimmy. I have a lot of names. They didn't give me the name James. I changed it when I transitioned, and I think that's something that's fraught, right? Because I picked the name James, which is a very biblical name. I wasn't raised Christian. I suppose in the sense that my family comes from Lutheran stock and that I live in America, which, whether we want to admit it or not, is steeped in Christian culture, right? I was raised more Christian than somebody who was not raised here. My given name is Evelyna, which is a German name. It is a name that was given to my great grandmother. I don't know if there was an Evelyna before her. And she changed her name to Evelyn when she came to the United States. I never knew her, and I was not attached to the name in any way. Obviously, in terms of gender, it set me at a point of dysphoria. But for most of my life, I had nicknames. Ev. Everybody called me Ev growing up, which is obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but it's a more masculinized version. It's a shorter version. The name Evelyna is it's beautiful. It's a beautiful name. That's what people always told me. I can't deny that. But it just didn't suit me. I was always like brash and tomboyish. And I'll get to that weird reclamation of beauty that occurred later. But when I was like, all right, I'm trans, so I gotta pick a new name. There were all these names that held significance to me, right? I thought I might want to be a Matt because I have something like 6 Uncle Matts that aren't related to me. And I also don't think the name Matt suits me. I don't think that if I would have chosen it, I would have kept it for very long. I never tried Matt out. I tried just J out for a while, which of course, J, yeah, like just the letter too. Like I didn't even fill it out all the way. And then I knew I wanted to be a Jimmy after I had tried out J. J wasn't working out. But when you want to be a Jimmy, like the full name version of that is James.
So how did you arrive at James?
Because I wanted to be a Jimmy. First of all, I went from having a very feminine name and like ostensibly being a woman to having a very masculine name and ostensibly being a man. Because like Jimmy's kind of neutral, and but James is like very much a man's name. People's dads are named James. You know, everybody has an Uncle James, or like their dad's name is James. What was interesting when I came out was that everybody called me James as opposed to Jimmy, which is like the nickname form. It's the familiar form, and it's the form that I prefer. And I think that had something to do with gender, like an overcompensation in a way of like, all right, well, we must erase all the vestiges of femininity or even neutrality in order to recognize this person as a man. Like the way that you're treated changes significantly, transitioning. It's no secret that women are oppressed, but even like on the phone, if you're like, my name is James Arnold, which is a very white male name, as opposed to, hi, my name's Evelyna. And I mean, now I have a deeper voice than I did then. Like, there's a respect factor. It's wild. It's like people go from dismissing you or talking over you to suddenly it's like, well, James has something to say. When I first came out as well, I was a much, much more masculine person. I like really like did again, almost an overcompensating hypermasculinity thing. And, you know, I very much wanted everybody to know, like, yes, I'm a man. This is what I'm doing. That got real old real fast. Because whether it's because I was socialized female or whether it's because of who I am as a person, like masculinity can be just as stifling as femininity. Women obviously infinitely have it harder than men, but both sides of the binary carry with them regulations. And I just don't fit into those. As I progressed, I became less and less comfortable in that masculinity. Like at first it was like, well, at least like they don't see me as a woman, which is not true about me. And so there was some like reassurance there of like, well, at least people are seeing you as who you are. And then as I became more effeminate again and like started like allowing myself that, I realized that there was still like a dysphoria at stake there of like, well, just being a man isn't enough because that only reinforces the binary and it only reinforces the hierarchy that the binary creates, essentially. Like just being a man gives me power that I didn't ask for and didn't, you know, do anything to deserve, nor is it a power that I want to have. Like from a feminist standpoint, it's ridiculous. And it was ridiculous. Like I had been like gradually reintroducing femininity into my life, wearing more feminine things, like painting my nails again, which seems like a small thing, but like is a big deal when you're ostensibly a man. And so I came to college, and when I would introduce myself to people, I wouldn't say my name is James, but most people call me Jimmy. I would say my name is Jimmy. Which, depending on if people read me as a man or as a woman, people think my name is Jamie. I mean, it's a constant toss up. You know, even before I transitioned, people would mistake me for a boy. And now that I've been on testosterone a while, I more often get read as a man, but I still obviously have feminine aspects to my body, and I have some very feminine affects that I'm sure I could reel in if I so desired, but it's less in my control now. You know, it's just like whatever signifiers they want to pick up on, they're going to pick up on. You're either Jamie or you're Jimmy, or it's I didn't know that was a girl's name, or I didn't know that that could be used as a gender neutral name. Like, well, all names are gender neutral if the person occupying them is gender neutral. For a while I was trying out a different name. Last year I asked some people in my life to call me Beaux sometimes. The French spelling, not the Hick spelling. The name means beauty, and I wanted to like reincorporate that into myself because I think there's power in beauty, and I think that it's wrong to deny yourself that. Like, no matter if my name is legally changed, like, there will still be plenty of confusion to be had by people. Yeah, well, I mean, if you go to the airport, right, like, I don't even bother being like, yeah, I would prefer it if you called me Jimmy. It's just like, all right, this ticket is for Evelyna Arnold, but then you go. I'm not sure, but it's likely that you've heard the horror stories of trans people being pulled aside and subjected to body searches inappropriately just because, like, their expression didn't match the marker on their ID or whatever, and my expression is probably never going to match either one all the time. In changing my name, there was a absolutely, you know, it was a way of saying I am not this person that I was supposed to be with all of the implications thereof. Like, I'm actually this person of my own making, which is really important to me. When I chose my name, I could choose it to reflect things that I valued. Because, like, the name Jimmy, right, as we discussed, doesn't like have like a familial significance. It's not like for any one person. Sometimes now if people ask me about it, I tell them it's because of James Baldwin because he's great. But like that didn't come until later, and like it's easier to be like, yeah, James Baldwin than it is to be like, there's no reason for me to be named what I am aside from I think it suits me. But like my middle name is for my uncle David, who's a huge influence on me. He used to live with us when I was a kid, and he's been a huge artistic influence on me. And like he's just a good dude. Like I
Jimmy David Cooper.
Yep, James David Cooper, something like that. And like I got to choose, you know, a last name that more reflected the familial bonds that embodied what a familial bond should be. So absolutely, there's a reclamation and a self-creation in that. I think more people should change their names. So many people have names that just don't suit them. And I hear like a lot of people, like cisgender people, like when I tell them that I picked my own name, they're like, oh, I wish I could do that. And I'm like, well, why don't you? Like, sure, there's some like social weirdness around changing your name, but people have nicknames all the time. And when it's not an issue that's imbued with gender, like I think if Jimmy was just a nickname of my dead name, like it would be totally cool. But because it's imbued with this like transitive gender, I think that's why people get weird about it. And so I think if more people just like chose to use a different name, that it would be easier for everybody, and everybody could perhaps reflect themselves a little better. But that's kind of utopian a little bit.